Hi, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about crested geckos, their care, their housing, and how best to keep them, in my opinion. So the first thing we'll start out with is the actual terrarium. I use an 18 by 18 by 24 Exoterra. You can see it there. Works perfectly for them. You definitely need something that's taller rather than wide. They're a semi-arboreal species, which means they spend a good portion of their time in the trees and a little bit on the ground. Um, so a few things about the actual enclosure. Lots of things for them to hide in and climb on. So throughout the day, you'll see my female there, just hanging out on a branch. My male, he tends to stay a little more hidden, so he's up there. So lots of hiding spots are always good for them. They definitely appreciate it, and that's up high. Down low, they definitely need hides as well. Some people do neglect that with crested geckos, but they do actually spend a lot of their time down on the ground, especially if you're feeding live food. They're going to be kind of staking out a spot and hunting down there. So just kind of a fake log hide in one spot there. Some of the trees are fake plants rather hitting the ground, so they can hide under there. And just a piece of knotted wood kind of thing. I do keep natural plants in my terrarium, I guess. So just kind of one tree. They, believe it or not, really like that. I definitely catch them both kind of hanging out on it quite regularly. And just underneath it there is some sphagnum moss that helps with humidity and kind of gives them something to burrow in, believe it or not. They really like to burrow into the ground from time to time, especially if it gets a little warm for them. They can regulate their body temperature that way, so it's nice. The flooring that I use is really basic. It's called Jungle Earth. I believe it's made by Exoterra. The pieces are nice and big, so it's not anything that they're going to swallow and become impacted with. Very easy to find and quite easy to maintain. I usually change it about once every 2 weeks. As far as temperature, they thrive really well at room temperature, so somewhere between 70 and 80 degrees works well for them. Mine right now is 21 degrees, which equals out to somewhere around 70. It generally warms up as the day goes on. Thermometer is very important. You definitely need to know kind of how cold it is in there, how hot it is in there. If it gets anything over 80, you're going to stretch them out, and anything colder than 70 is going to bother them a little bit as well. Hydrometer, also important. I've had this door open for a minute, but should be somewhere between 40 and 50, and that's perfectly fine for kind of throughout the day. It's about the range you want them to be in. These guys do need a misting. It's about once in the morning and once kind of before you go to bed, as long as the enclosure is dried out. I definitely don't have any kind of fancy system or anything like that. Typically just use a regular old spray bottle. I try not to spray them directly and annoy them too much. So just spray down the enclosure, substrate, and the moss if you have any of that in it, and that'll keep your humidity in the right range. Feeding is pretty basic with these guys. I use Clark's gecko diet. It would be the same as Repashy or any other high quality pre-made crested gecko diet. It's just Canadian, so it's a little easier for me to get my hands on up here. So you feed that generally 3 or 4 times a week, and it can stay in the enclosure for a day or two easily. In the wild, these guys would be foraging for overripe fruit and things like that on the ground, so it definitely doesn't turn them off if it's not fresh. So the other thing you can definitely feed or supplement with at least is live crickets. You want to stay away from superworms, mealworms. Kind of worms in general are not the greatest for them. They have hard shells in a lot of cases, and they can cause impaction. So you definitely don't want to be feeding those things. Dubia roaches and crickets are kind of the main staple of the diet if you're gonna do if you're gonna do live food. And you definitely want to be dusting at least once a week, using kind of a high quality calcium. This is Fluker's. Really nothing fancy. You can pick it up at most pet shops. Just add a little bit of vitamin D to their diet. Keep the bones strong with the calcium, so they stay happy and healthy. A little bit of general handling with these guys. They are really, really handleable. See if I can pick up my female here. She's not overly happy with me. So you can see they're quite easy to handle for adults or even for children. I have a 4-year-old, and he's quite fine handling both my guys actually. The main thing with them is their tail. They will actually drop their tail. I'm going to jump here. They will actually drop their tail, so you definitely want to avoid that. It's usually caused by them thinking you're a predator, or you sneaking up on them, or something along those lines. Definitely don't directly pick them up by the tail or anything like that. Just kind of cradle under their bodies, and they'll be quite happy to be picked up generally. It's a traumatic event for them. Obviously, if they're losing a body part, that's never that good of a thing. So the more you can do to kind of prevent any damage to your gecko, the happier they're going to be, obviously. But absolutely very easily handleable rather. I try to pick my guys up at least once a day for 10 or 15 minutes a day. It gets a little tough when you have quite a few reptiles, but they are pretty used to it at this point. So a couple little things about them that I wish people had told me when I started keeping these guys. Color change is a big one. My guy back here is pretty white right now, and actually when he's fired up he is bright orange. So throughout the day the UVB bulb actually makes him change color to he almost goes to actually paper white color. It's a little spooky. And it can be pretty scary for somebody who's just owning their first crested gecko. They do change color, especially under UVB light. It's nothing to worry about. It's not because they're sick. It's not because they're dying. It's just part of their physiology. So nothing to necessarily worry about. The other thing is, especially when they're new in an enclosure, they will get hidden. They will find the most obscure spot in the entire terrarium and they will stick themselves there all day because they don't feel safe yet. So as time goes on and they feel safer and safer, they definitely will open up and be out in the open just like this girl here, and not be bothered so much, I guess, by kind of your presence. But you do need to give them a little bit of an adjustment time. Don't worry if you can't find your gecko the first week that you bring it home, because you're not supposed to find your gecko. They were actually thought to be extinct for many years, so they're really good at hiding. Just give them time to kind of come out of their shell a little bit. I guess that's another kind of important tip is whenever you bring home a reptile like this that is quite handleable, you need to kind of keep in mind that they do need a bit of an adjustment period, usually 2 weeks before you can kind of handle them regularly. So let them get kind of used to their space, let them get used to their enclosure. Don't try to pull them out every 5 minutes or poke at them or prod at them. Just kind of leave them be. And after about a 2-week period, you can start handling them 5-10 minutes a day, let them get used to you, and then they'll eventually warm right up in most cases and be completely fine with being handled. Shedding is another thing that's a little bit weird to see the first time or the first couple times it happens. It can be interesting. Your gecko, no matter what the color, will go very chalky, pasty looking, and you may not know why. The only thing that you need to do in that case is keep the enclosure nice and humid. They definitely need that to be doing a proper shed and avoid any issues. And then generally by the next morning they will have shed, and they generally actually eat their shed as well, so you'll never know that it happened other than seeing them pasty and white. So I think that about covers everything that I wanted to cover. Hopefully I didn't forget too much. These guys are perfect little pets, and you know, if you set them up in something close to their natural habitat, feed them properly, they're definitely going to stay happy and healthy for you, and quite a bit of enjoyment from these little guys. Let's see if I can just get her on the camera one more time. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day.